Hi, I'm Robbie from PocketLab, and today I'm going to be telling you how to use your new PocketLab Voyager or PocketLab Weather to connect with a Chromebook or Mac OS X computer. And you're going to do that through the PocketLab Web App, which you can access through a Chrome browser. So the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure your Bluetooth is turned on your device, and then go ahead and open up your Chrome browser and type in thepocketlab.com /app, and when you do that, the PocketLab Web App is going to come up, and so what you're going to want to do is take your Voyager or Weather, and on the top there is a button to turn it on. So go ahead and press that down, and you'll see the PocketLab LED light flash red and green. That's putting it in advertising mode, so it is the Bluetooth is sending out a signal searching to connect with the device. So on the web app, you'll see it says click here to select a device at the bottom of the screen. So you're going to want to click that, and then you're going to see different any PocketLabs that you might see in the area. So if you're in a classroom, you might see a list of PocketLabs up there. You're going to want to take your PocketLab and put it right next to the device, and then you're able to select the PocketLab with the highest signal strength, which you'll see over there on the left, and that should be the one that is closest to your Chromebook or Mac computer. So the PocketLab is now connecting. Okay, and so now we're measuring acceleration, and that's the default graph that the web app that the PocketLab app will go to. It's going to default to 10 samples per second, and you can see up in the upper right hand corner there's a little slider next to the word frequency. So I can slide that up or down to change the data rate. So right now we have 10 samples per second. I can change that to 20 samples per second, 20 points per second. I can then slide it again up to 25 points per second, and all the way up to 50 points per second in real time. I can then slow the data rates down, just sliding it the other way. And I can slow it down all the way to 1 point per second. Over here on the right of the screen, you will see an X, Y, and Z button. And to turn off each of those graphs, you simply toggle them on and off. So if I click on the X button, you can see that the red graph, which is indicating the X-axis, that has disappeared. If I turn off the Z, now the the Z-axis has disappeared, and all we have left is the Y-axis. Go up here into the upper right-hand corner again of the screen. I click on what looks to be like a little ruler, and here you can toggle between the different units that are available for acceleration. Right now I'm measuring in G's, so to switch the units to meters per second squared, I simply click on that, the meters per second squared button, and then hit OK. And you'll notice that now, instead of about 1 G of acceleration on the y-axis, as I hold the PocketLab with gravity pulling down on the y-axis, instead of 1 G, it now says around 9.8 meters per second squared. You can, depending on what graph you're in, you'll have different options to change the units to. Okay, two other features that you'll find in the upper right-hand corner of the app are features that give you a different type of feedback for the data being displayed. So right now we're just displaying the data as a graph, but a cool feature is you can get audio feedback for the data that you're seeing. So the app will give a tone to the sort of like a tone to the graph. and as the graph changes, the tone feedback will change. So I can turn that on by clicking the button, the icon that looks like a mic, a little speaker. So I click that on, and you'll hear sort of a light audio tone. Now, as I change the PocketLab and the graph changes, you'll see the audio change correspondingly. So I'll go ahead and turn that off. The other feature that you can see in the right-hand corner there, it's a little box that says 1, 2, 3 that just gives, what that does is it switches from graph mode to just a numerical display of the data. Now, you'll notice that little box, the numbers are no longer there. Now it looks like a little graph. So you click on that to switch back to the graphing mode. And right now the data is not being recorded. It's just streaming it, but it's not storing it anywhere. So in order to start a recording, you're going to want to go to the bottom of the screen where it says record. Okay. You're going to, before you do that, make sure you choose the data rates that you want. You have the graphs out that you want, the axes that you want to display, and everything set up. And then go ahead and hit the record button, and the data will clear, and a new set of data will begin, and this data will be recorded. So I can go ahead and maybe do an experiment where I'm measuring the orientation of the PocketLab in relation to Earth's gravity using the accelerometer. And then I can go ahead and hit stop when I want to stop the recording. Now, I can do a couple things now that I'm in what's called review mode. So in review mode, I can hover my cursor over the different data points, and I will see the data being displayed here, the values of the data being displayed below the graph. So if I hover my cursor here, I see the value at that time for X, Y, and Z. So I can hover over to kind of read the different data points. Okay. I can double click to zoom out and sort of view the entire graph. And if I want to zoom in on certain points of the graph, I click and then drag, and it'll zoom in the window that I sort of drag open. So I click and drag, and that you see that highlights a little window, and then it'll zoom in on that. So I can zoom in all the way on a single point. Okay, and then if I want to go back out and view the entire graph again, I again double click, and I'll see the entire graph from the experiment. I can replay the experiment. So I can rewatch what happened with the data. I can still go back, even if I didn't turn off axes before my data collection, I can always go back and turn those off. Okay, now that you're done in review mode and you want to save your data, you can go down to the lower right-hand corner of the graph where you'll see a button that says Export Data. And you can click on that, and it will export as a CSV file. All of your data will export as a CSV file. So then you can do further analysis in Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel. In Chromebook, it has a nice integration right into Google Drive. So you just go ahead and click on Upload to Google Drive, and then we'll upload to your Google Drive account that you have linked to your Chromebook. Now, to clear the data, there's a button next to export data that says clear, so I clear that. And now I've left review mode, and I'm back into just streaming the data live. Now, if I want to change to any of the different graphs that the PocketLab Voyager that we can view with the PocketLab Voyager, I can go ahead and in the upper left-hand corner, there's an icon that looks like a graph. If I click that, I then pull up a list of all the different graphs that we can look at with the PocketLab Voyager sensors. I'll show you here how to switch to the different graphs. So right now, you'll see that the acceleration is highlighted, and we're displaying acceleration there in the background. If I want to measure, let's say, magnetic field, I click on magnetic field. Now you'll notice that both acceleration and magnetic field are now highlighted, and if you look in the background behind the window, you'll see that both the acceleration graph and the magnetic field graph are being displayed. That's because I have both of them highlighted. So if I want to just look at magnetic field, I go back up to acceleration and I click on it again, and now that sort of unhighlights acceleration, and now just magnetic field is being displayed. So now when I go down to the bottom, I hit OK. Now we're measuring magnetic field. You can actually do up to 3 graphs. So let's say I wanted to look at humidity, dew point, and heat index. To look at heat index, I need to unclick magnetic field, so I've unhighlighted it, and now I can still click on one more graph to look at. So I'll go ahead and click on heat index, and now I'm looking at humidity, dew point, and heat index all at once. Go to the web app like we showed, connect like we showed previously, and then you'll see in the upper left-hand corner, next to the graph button, where you change the graph, you'll see another icon, which is for the onboard memory. So we want to set that up. So go ahead and click there, and you'll see the memory control panel will pop up. And you'll notice that the graphs are no longer being displayed in the background. And so it says memory status ready. And then we want to click, we have 2 options to click. We can go switch to real-time graphing, which will put us right back into the app. So if you click that on mistake and you decide you don't want to use the onboard memory, just click that. Or you click setup if you want to begin setting up your recordings. Next, you'll see all of the graphs that you can select in the graphing mode. You'll see those come up, and so you want to enable which sensors that you're going to record with. You're going to want to click on the graphs that you want for your experiment that you're doing. So let's say I want to measure light intensity. I go down to the light sensor here. I click that. You see that it's highlighted. I go down to the bottom of the screen where it says next or cancel. So you'll go ahead and hit next. And now in the memory control panel, the next thing it asks for is the data rate that you want to record. So you'll set that just like in the real-time graphing mode, there's a slider. It defaults here to 1 point per second. You can actually go all the way down to 60 seconds per point. So 1 point every 60 seconds. So you can really slow the data rate down in the memory mode. So let's set this at 25 points per second. And then I go over here to, I can hit cancel back or start recording. Okay, so this is the next screen that comes up. It says status, logging in progress. So it's giving you the status of the PocketLab Voyager. So right now we are actually measuring light intensity. And it says click the device button in the top left to leave this trial and collect results later. We can stop logging and clear the memory, or we can stop logging and download the data. Okay. Now, if you want to go ahead and just disconnect, you can do that as well. So let's say we'll just go ahead and click the little button there. It says collect results later. We say yes. And now I'm no longer connected to the app, but I'm still recording data with the Voyager. So I'm still recording light intensity data. Okay. So now, let's say I want to, I go out, I do my experiment, and I want to come back and upload my data. So what I need to do now is I come back and I connect. Okay. So now I connect to my Voyager. And as it's connecting, instead of going right to the real-time graphing mode, the app can tell that the PocketLab Voyager or Weather has data stored on the memory. So the first thing it's going to want to do when it connects, instead of sending you to the real-time graphing mode, is pull up the memory control panel again and ask you what you want to do. So the options are, you can stop logging data and download the data. Right now it's actually still recording that data. You can stop logging data and clear the memory. So let's say you didn't like the trial, you didn't like the experiment that you just did, you don't need to see the data. You can stop the recording and just clear it off the memory. You can clear the data and setup, or you can switch to real-time graphing. So generally what you're going to want to click most of the time if you have memory on your PocketLab that you want to use is the stop logging and download data button. So when I click that, it stops logging data on the PocketLab, and now it is downloading the data. You can see that it's downloading with the flashing LED light. And once the data is downloaded, you can it'll actually display the data in review mode, just like if you recorded the data in real-time graphing mode.